Now they go to the spread. 2 wideouts this way, 3 the other side. Basham the lone back, takes a snap, looks over the middle, now dances left. Has some room, throws a pass out, has a man open. Touchdown, Chesaning, Chris Ferranti.
No, I just hope one time to break a decent return. I mean, you get in field goal range with a couple passes.
Ferry the lone back deep. They're bringing 9. It was a high snap, and they didn't get the block, but Ferry fields it at the 34, 35, 40. Get the block, 45, midfield, he's got some room. He's got an opening, 30, the 20, the 10, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. No flags on the field, and Ferry breaks it all the way.
Whoa, baby, I guess we got it around the return, huh?
I guess we can. Unbelievable. Matt Ferry, a 65-yard return with 1:39 to go. Oh, baby.
All right, we're going to be talking big-time Chesaning tonight. You heard the couple highlight touchdown scores from 2001 Chesaning Indian State Championship. I got to tell you guys, I was listening Friday night, and I had a laugh-out-loud moment. You guys will appreciate this. Casey mentioned the punt return call by a spry Ted Fattel. It just cracked me up. Yeah, that was a little over 20 years ago. I probably was a little bit more spry than I am nowadays, but it just caught me, and he hit it right on the head. It was, how could you not be excited for a game-winning touchdown punt return, right?
For a state title too.
For a state title.
I mean, that's pretty cool. It is funny going back and, we post some of those throwback football games from, back in your spry days, apparently. Yeah, you do have a little more juice in the voice. Not that at the end, not that you don't now, but a little more energy. I always think about the legendary first ever Shiawassee game, that went down and was just bonkers at the end of the game. I think if there's audio meters on that thing, it would be blowing out of control.
Oh, yeah. Well, let's be honest. I mean, I'm a logical guy, and I had more juice back in those days. There's no question about it, And when I look back on the broadcasting career, I mean, really, back in the late 90s, in the early 2000s, that was probably my prime time as far as putting together games. I mean, that 2001 game, when I re-listened to it myself, I mean, I had pregame interviews with both head coaches before the game. I mean, we had great production value. We had 65 sponsors for that game. I mean, the castle was red hot back then, man.
Hopefully you made some dough, man. I don't know. Hopefully it's not the same rate, that stays the same. I mean, hopefully it fluctuated a little bit with a couple of those good Chesaning teams, man.
Yeah. But I will say, if any of our listeners want to maybe dive into it, that 2001 game and the 98 game are posted on our 3 Point podcast site. This catch-up portion being brought to you by AZee Branding Solutions, growing your brand from A to Z. You guys got anything to catch up on before we get into the meat and potatoes?
I'll say quickly, we shared the 2001 state championship game by Chesaning that we're talking about right there. So 2001, that was my junior year. And so we played Chesaning, of course, the year that they ended up going on to win the state championship. And you were nice enough to share with me that Corona Chesaning game. So I went ahead and posted it, even though
you didn't want to, did you?
Was it a bludgeoning?
So I kind of forgot this a little bit, to be honest. I remember that we hung with them, and then they won the state title that year. They outmatched us. But we hung with them the whole first half, and then second half they just blew our doors off or whatever. Yeah. But it was funny even going back and listening to that, and hearing my name called by you. Like, to think 25 years later or whatever, we're going to be doing a podcast together, and we didn't even know it.
Who knew?
Well, I don't got much. I'll say, I mean, I don't do much, man. I mean, literally what I wrote, I was thinking for like 10 minthis, what the hell have I been doing to come up with for catch-up? This is what I came up with.
The Tigers playoff push.
Yeah.
Right. I've been working. But this is basically, I work and then I watch football all day. That's pretty much what I do. And it's magical. It's glorious. You can't beat it. So I can't wait to talk about it. But yeah, I don't got much, man. I'm moving apartments right now. So I've been dealing with that, been working and been watching football. That basically summarizes my last 3-4 weeks of life, really.
Nothing wrong with that. That's for sure. This is episode 327 of the 3 Point Podcast, presented by Memorial Healthcare's Wellness Center. For those unexpected moments when injuries strike, visit the Orthopedic Walk-In Clinic Monday through Fridays, 8 to noon. No appointments needed. Also want to thank our other starting lineup of partners. They include ALS of Michigan, AZee Branding Solutions, Jacobs Insurance Agency, Kori Shook and Associates Real Estate Services, Nelson House Funeral Homes, Rivals Taphouse and Grille, Success Group Mortgage and Servicing, and the Shiawassee County Fair. I'm going to do a live read for the fair this week, guys. You can chime in as well. I'm sure you saw the posting. I know you did, Matt, because you shared it. October 11th through the 13th at the fairgrounds, they're going to have their first trunk and treat camp out. They have many, many activities for all ages. Think about this stuff. At that time of year, bonfire, s'more roasting, haunted hay rides for children, haunted rides for the adults, a bounce house, costume contest. It sounds like it. Hopefully the weather holds up for them and it gets a nice Indian summer day. Doesn't that sound great?
Those trunk or treat events are pretty cool. I know Sleepy Hollow, the campground there in Lanesburg, they do a really cool trunk or treat event too. You walk around the campground, do all that.
That's cool.
We talked to Dawn, who basically runs the Shiawassee County Fair. And we asked her, one of us asked her about, what other kind of events do you do when it's not fair time? It's cool that they come up with stuff like this because they got that huge space there on Hibbard Road. They probably got to figure out, all right, what are we going to do? Not during fair week. Trunk or treat is perfect. It's really cool.
And camping and the whole thing that goes with it. So I think that's going to be a great event. Yeah. Well, we'll get to the meat and potatoes of this podcast. We're going to have a special guest. Chesaning head coach Matt Walter will be joining us as part of the Prep Spotlight. We'll talk college and pro football and definitely talk the Tigers pennant chase right after the following messages.
Hand off to Florian again. Cuts it back over the right side. Makes a couple men miss. He's got daylight over on the far sideline. Jukes back into midfield. Touchdown, Florian. What a run. He side up the middle. It was plugged. Went around the right side. Made a couple guys miss. Cut back up the middle for a nice touchdown run. 41 yards. Braden Florian, man, he is on fire to start this season. Picking up right where he left off last year. And the Chesaning Indians strike first and are on the board. 6-0 thanks to Braden Florian. Man, he was huge on that drive. Hey. He'll bring up 1st and 10 after the Florian run. Here comes an inside handoff to Landon Qualls, and he's into the end zone. Qualls gets in on the action. Volk looking to throw and air it out. He's got a man open across the middle. Another touchdown, Brady Sager. And I think that one might be all Chesaning needed to seal this one away. And right on cue, as we mentioned, Florian, they do another fake handoff to him. Volk roll out to the left, finding receiver Adam Woodcock in the back of the end zone for a Chesaning Indian touchdown. 45-14. This game is wide open here. 3:45 remaining in the fourth quarter.
Well, next up, part of our prep spotlight tonight, we have one of our great young coaches in our area, the Chesaning head coach, Matt Walter. And Coach, you're a third of the way season in. Big win over New Lothrop on Friday night. Packed house over there at Morning Star. Let's start right there. You're a third in. I think you had high expectations coming into this season, and so far it looks like you're living up to it.
Absolutely, and that's one thing we talked about in the off season is we're going to have to give our best. We're going to have to be our best at practice, at every game. Teams are going to come after us. We're at the top. The one thing that we kind of have been frustrated with is we're not getting the respect outside of the community in the school that in our program. And so we're setting the tone. And Friday night was a tone setter. It was a statement win that we're not going away. Even against Bath, people picked us to win by 4. We're setting the tone. We're coming at you, and just be ready.
Hey, that's probably part of maybe if you're not the New Lothrop Hornets in mid-Michigan racking up all those state championships that they have, you guys do kind of have some respect, I guess, to build on. I mean, you guys are kind of doing that. What New Lothrop had beat you guys, I think 5 straight years before you guys beat them last year. So now you've got them 2 times in a row. So you're showing, I guess, the media folks or the people outside of mid-Michigan that Chesaning, this last year wasn't a fluke, right? I mean, we're a program that's here to stay.
Absolutely. And if our guys are working hard in the off season and they're hearing this stuff. We're supposed to, one of the polls had us finishing like 4th in the league. And that stuff gets to you after a point, and then you just got to do something about it. And
Right.
it's our coaching staff too. Our coaching staff is driven like no other, and it kind of trickles down to the team, to the program. And so it's driven by our staff right now, and our players are locked in. I said last year they were locked in. This year there's a new locked in. I'm telling you right now, these guys, when they walked out New Ulthrop, there's no way they were going to lose.
Especially, sorry, Jared, I know you're about to jump in, especially on a night when you guys are honoring 2 state champion Chesaning teams. I mean, I don't care if the state championships were 30 years ago. When you see Chesaning state champions walk out there getting honored, I would be thinking, I want that to be me in 20 years. So that's a pretty cool thing.
Absolutely. And one of the things that's thrown around the school a lot is pride. Pride is thrown a lot. Tribe is thrown a lot. Pride, the Indians. So we want to make sure we make them proud of us on the field and off the field. And I think Friday night showed that for sure, with a lot of guys coming back that we've never met before, never seen before. And they got to see a game and see a darn good game, a domination.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I saw you guys had, I think, over 300 yards in the ground. I mean, you guys do that to a lot of teams. We're all Michigan fans on this podcast. We've grown accustomed to seeing Michigan bludgeon some teams, maybe not so much this year. Flat out, how satisfying is it when you are able to dominate on the ground like you guys did last week? It's got to feel pretty awesome.
It's what we want to do. We want to ground and pound, and then now we can air it out a little bit more. Our Max is a year better. This is his 3rd year on varsity, a starting quarterback, so he's that much better. This summer he's put in a lot of time. So now not only can we ground and pound, we can throw it now. You're going to try to stop Florian. You're going to put an extra guy in the box or two. Guess what? We're going to throw it to Brady Sager, Adam Woodcock. So we got a what do they call it? 2-headed monster. With Matt Volk and Braden Florian, and then our offensive line, no one gives them credit, and again, we're in the area and you guys are Corunna guys, so you talk Corunna, and don't get me wrong, I love Steve Herrick, he's a great guy, they have a great program, we have a great offensive line. I think we have one of the most dominant offensive line in the area. Braden Birch is a monster, Seth Slitt is a monster. I mean, these guys were driving New Ulthrop guys 2 to 3 yards off the ball, and then when you watch the second half, it was even worse. So, I mean, these guys are it's not just the Max and Braden show. It's all 11 guys doing their job. And our receivers, if you were to watch film on how they blocked, they were pushing guys out of bounds 2 to 3 yards.
Nothing excites me like receivers getting love for blocking. I love it.
Oh, absolutely. And we do these stickers on the helmet, back of the helmet for yards and TDs and all that. And this year I was like, you know what? I got to give credit to my receivers. I got to give credit to Cal Frazier, who's an H-back, who comes in once in a while and does a great job at that, blocking, helping the line. So all these guys are getting, 13 to 15 stickers or helmet stickers every year. And it's hurting my bank, but it's also making me proud to see these guys and see how hard they're working and taking it, even if you're 20 yards downfield and have your player will not make the tackle, they're still blocking, and it frustrates guys. It's a mental game, not just a physical.
Quick comment. Yes, we are Corunna guys, and yes, we do talk a lot about Corunna, mostly last year, and with good reason. I mean, they did make the state finals, the best team ever in school history. So,
great program, absolutely, 100%. We want to be part of that talk. Like we want to, that's where we want to reach to that. That's kind of where we want people to talk with, like, about Chesaning.
Well, I was going to kind of lead into that because I think that's where we're headed. Chesaning definitely one of the teams we're going to be really focused on and talking a lot about. And, you talked about the 98 and 2001 team being there in attendance. I mean, Chesaning, I've been broadcasting a long time, 40 years, and in the 80s completely dominated the conference, and the 90s solid. I mean, and then obviously winning those state championships. I did notice in the Argus Press preview, and I like the way you operate, by the way, Coach. You say what's on your mind. You don't sugarcoat things. Nope. You said, most coaches will say, well, our number one goal is beating the next team in front of me, win the conference championship. But you were stated as saying you're looking for an undefeated season. That confidence has got to go down to the team, right?
No, absolutely. And we we had 80% of our offense and defense come back from last year. I mean, and they're bigger, they're stronger, they're faster. They got another year of experience. So some of these guys have been 3-4 years on varsity, and like I told you, we haven't gotten the respect that we feel like we should.
Right.
And so if you're not going to get respect, we're going to take it. We're going to take respect. And it showed the past 3 games. I hate to say it, we're not trying to, embarrass anyone or anything like that, but we want to send statements, and that's what we want to do.
I mean, at some, you want to play the game the right way, but at some point it is about making a statement. And you're not trying to run the score up. You're not trying to, do anything disrespectful or anything like that, but you're trying to make a statement. I mean, I don't know, Coach, you got me. I'm ready to strap up, man. I mean,
good. Do it. Let's go. We could. Hey, we could use another receiver. So don't worry. I mean, if you got time,
I got some eligibility left.
There you go.
I might need to loosen up the joints a little bit, but no, I mean, I grabbed the Michigan helmet. Jared, you mentioned Michigan a little bit ago. I bet beating New Lothrop, I mean, you're fired up. You're rightfully so. Beating New Lothrop is probably like, when Michigan beats Penn State in the regular season, or if they can beat Ohio State at the end of their regular season. Huge check mark. But for Michigan, there's always like bigger goals, winning the Big Ten, and then, now getting to the college football playoff and, and on. So beating New Lothrop, huge check mark. But how do you now get the guys to be like, the season's not over? Like this wasn't the high point of our season. Like we have bigger goals to reach to. How do you keep 16, 17, 18-year-old kids focused on that?
Well, and I listened to your guys' podcast a little bit. Nice job, by the way. At the end of the game, you guys said, look at Chesaning players. They're smacking each other on their head, their helmets. The coaches are chest bumping. They're celebrating all that. That lasted 5 minutes, and we said on to the next. Enjoy it, but we're moving on to the next. And Mount Morris, again, it sounds cliche, but I said we're on a respect tour, and right next is Mount Morris, and they're in our way. And so it's I hate to say it, whoever's in our way, I mean, we're going to give our best. I mean, I'm not going to guaranteed wins or anything, but I'm telling you right now, we're going to smack you in the face. You're going to feel it, all right, and you're going to understand. Just like I hate to say it, a couple quarterbacks for New Lothrop, we were going to if they may have gained 20 yards, but we were going to take a shot. We're going to tackle you. You're going to feel us. So, and that's our defensive coordinator, does a great job. He's passionate. He's energetic. And I tell you what, he knows exactly what's coming, and these guys believe in it. And it showed the domination on Friday.
Looking, way ahead to eventually playoffs. I mean, it looks like you guys are well on your way to playoffs. You guys made it to district final last year, lost to Midland, Bullock Creek. I mean, the experience of a lot of, like we said, 80% of your production coming back from last year. What would you say maybe some of those lessons you guys learned in playoffs from a younger team that you're going to be able to apply to this year's potential playoff run coming up in 5-6 weeks?
Well, we knew we had to be more physical because Midland, Bullock Creek, I mean, the 2 Swartz boys and then their offensive line was big and strong. Thank goodness they're in D5 now, so we don't have to deal with that. But we knew we had to be more mentally tough. And if you're going to be mentally tough in the offseason, you got to get to the weight room. You got to get to the weight room. And then, like I said, now that Max can throw it a little bit more, he could throw it last year, but right now he's almost to 600 yards in 3 games with 9 touchdowns. With Florian having 400 rushing yards and Max having another 200. So we're now able to throw it a little bit, which if guys, like I said, guys want to stack the box or anything like that, our offensive coordinator has a game plan for everything. And so we have adjustments that were last year. I don't think we felt as confident in the passing game. And now Max is probably, I would say, the best quarterback in the area, if not Lower Michigan.
Yeah, he's really stepped it up for sure. And that leadership really goes a long way as well. You talked about your coaches a little bit. Tell us your coaching staff this year, what they're doing, a little background on them.
Well, this is the same coaching staff we've had for 3 years. Jacob Price at defensive coordinator. I mean, one of the best minded defensive guys I've ever met. He throws ideas out there, and then he knows exactly what's coming. New Lothrop is all formations.
Yeah.
That's what they do. They put you in formations. They run the same thing, but they put you in formations, and he could pick a formation and say, this is what they're going to do. And our defense was ready for it. And then his brother is our offensive coordinator, and he's opened it up a little bit. So Max can run a little bit more. Max is a little bit stronger, a little bit bigger, and he also can throw. So now we've got a threat of our quarterback running and throwing. And then our offensive line coaches are very intense. Just today, they were they were getting on the kids pretty good. If you don't finish a block, I'm telling you right now, you're going to hear about it. So, and then we've got we added Bobby Sager to the program. He's been a well-known Chesaning guy, and he's defensively helped us out at the linebacker position. And our linebackers might be our strongest suit. Everyone talks about Braden Florian at running back, but he's probably one of the best linebackers in the area as well. He's almost to 25 tackles in 3 games. He's our middle backer, and he put a hurting on that quarterback with some hits. So, and then we have some guys added on that from last year, Sewell and our JV coach. So what we do is our coaches are so efficient in practice that we have no downtime. We're moving on to the next thing. We're physical. We're intense. We put kids in situations where they can handle games when bad stuff happens, or right. we need next guy to step up or anything like that. We try to put them in uncomfortable situations so that way in games they know what to do. And our coaching staff does a great job. I give them all the credit in the world. I just kind of walk around, blow the whistle, make sure everything's managed and like that. So we have a great system, almost like a college system. Right. That's kind of what we have right now. And then we got a strength and conditioning coach, Josh Chrysler. He does an excellent job. So everyone has their role, and they do their role great. Instead of having a lot of roles and just being okay, we have smaller roles, but we're really good at them.
I got one last question for you, Coach. You're talking about your coaching staff and seemingly the edge your team plays with in the trenches. We were talking about Michigan last week, and I'm an idiot, but to me, it looks like Michigan doesn't have the same edge that they had under Harbaugh. Do you think that's something that a coach can instill in players, or does that just come with talent and natural players like mental makeup? What do you think of that?
So we have a lot of talent. I'll be the first to admit. And we actually watched a highlight from the 98 championship team. They had a highlight film. And one of the questions asked to Jim Zappin was, you're returning everyone. You're returning 16 guys. How do you feel? He's like, I feel great. Not many people, return 16. So we return a lot of guys. But I think our coaches set the tone, especially our pregame speeches. Usually I give one right before we walk out. I was given one before we walked out for warm-ups an hour ahead of game because I couldn't hold back. I couldn't. And I got, I'm older. You called me young, but I'm older. I've got one good one in me in a week. And so it was an hour early, and I was like, I'm not going to do this, guys. I don't want you to get fired up. And then, boom, I just blacked out. And those guys, not one word from the weight room to the field, not one word from a player. They were so focused.
That's awesome. I still remember those days, man. Walking out after the coach gives you the fired up speech. Nothing like it. Nothing like it.
Oh, yeah.
Well, Coach, we really appreciate you taking the time to join us tonight. We're keeping a close eye on the Indians, as you know. This could be a very special year for Chesaning. Stay healthy, keep them focused, and we'll be catching up with you down the road, okay?
Thank you, guys. I appreciate it very much. And I know you guys are Corunna guys, but I see it in your eyes. You're Chesaning now, so I appreciate
it. No worries. Thanks, Coach.
Jacobs Insurance Agency has served Shiawassee County and the surrounding areas since 1977. Just like 3 Point Podcasts, we've had 3 generations: Gary Jacobs Sr., Gary Jacobs II, Brian Jacobs, and myself, Noah Jacobs, serving our community with offices in Waterford and Owasso on M21, just west of Home Depot. Stop in or go online to jacobsinsurance.com to get a quote or get your questions answered by our team. Jacobs Insurance is a proud supporter of our local schools and the proud sponsor of the Prep Spotlight. Insure everything, local, independent, and trusted. It's our family working together to protect yours. That's the Jacobs way.
Well, continuing on with the Prep Spotlight, let's just jump into some of the football games from last week. We talked about it with Coach Walter. 47-22 domination over New Lothrop. His quarterback, Max Volk, accounted for 5 touchdowns. He passed for 117 yards, ran for 114. All-state running back Braden Florian, 252 yards on 33 carries. I don't know about you guys, but when you see some of the scores in the paper or online, and you know what this team has coming back, this could be a very special season for the Indians.
No, I mean, that was a great question from you, Jared, asking about can, is that edge from the coaches? Or,
Right.
you basically ask, like, is it about the players that are coming back? And I like Coach Walter's answer. Like, yes, coaches set the tone and, build the program and stuff. But yeah, he talked about Jim Zappin back in the 90s with the state title team. You got to have talent. I mean, I don't care how good of a coach you are, especially in high school. If you have all your great players graduate and you kind of have one of those classes that's a little down, you're probably not going to be as good. So no, it starts with the talent coming back. And if you have a quarterback that's in his third year of starting varsity football, I mean, that's a big deal. That 3 years of starting varsity football is a big deal. It's all-state running back. I mean, you got to have the talent. So, I mean, that's first and foremost. And this Chesaning team, Coach Walter, I think he's ready to put the pads back on and get back out there and play. But no, it's cool to see.
Matt, do you think that you would still be a wide receiver if you slotted into high school, or would they maybe slide down tight end nowadays?
I've put on a few pounds since high school, probably tight end. It's kind of like in basketball. I tell people now at work, I'm like, I'm just a spot up shooter now. I'm not going down. I'm not going down in the paint anymore. So it'd probably be the same in football.
but your last thing on Chesaning, I mean, that Ovid Elsie game coming up, I think it's October 11th or 12th. I mean, that should be, the game of the area really this regular season. So
well, weeks 6, 7, and 8 they have Montrose at home. They follow that up on the road at Ovid Elsie and on the road at Durand. So that little segment of the schedule is going to be a real test to find out where the Indians are this season, without a doubt. Another team, this is a team that's off to a 3-0 start. Owasso 50-14 over Clio. That was kind of a given. They were going to beat the Mustangs, but Hoyt and Liam Patrick combined to rush for 310 yards and 4 touchdowns. Quarterback Liam also had 3 touchdown passes. And so, like I said, 3-0, that's a great start.
I mean, people are talking a lot about, the hubbub on Owasso seems legit. What is your early preview of Owasso Corunna? Do you think it's going to be a good game, or do you think Corunna's still maybe a little leg up on Owasso?
Oh,
as you currently sit?
I'd wear my Corunna, loyalty on my sleeve, but I really honestly believe this is a 50-50 game coming in. Owasso's had some tough luck in the past down the road, but I've watched them, when Tyner came in to coach this team, he brought up a bunch of young kids, man, but they're not young kids anymore. They're seasoned and they're confident, and they have really bought into the program. I really think the advantage may be the home field, possibly, but it's going to be a toss-up.
Should be an awesome crowd, man. It should be a really awesome crowd. That's high school football right there.
Absolutely.
Well, this could finally be, it's over to Corunna, so the Owasso fans had that long drive to Corunna to go to Nick and Neese Field, but they're believing in their team. I mean, this is a 3-0 team. Owasso's averaging basically like 46 points per game. I don't care who you're playing. If you're averaging 46 points per game in high school football, that's a good offense. So Corunna is going to have to figure out a way to stop that offense. And then Owasso has that just, like nothing to lose type of mentality. Like probably most people, even though you're kind of saying a coin flip, Ted, but most of the people are probably still expecting Corunna to win. So Owasso should go in there and be like, hey, let's win. Right. I looked up a stat. I was curious. This is kind of crazy. I wanted to look at the last 10, 20 years, kind of how many wins Owasso has over Corunna type of thing. Their last 2 wins over Corunna, Ted, you can fact check me on this.
You want me to guess? I can guess them. You want me to guess?
Sure. I was gonna say, why don't you guys guess first?
Okay.
Owasso's last 2 wins over Corunna.
Yeah. So it would have been the 2 years after I graduated, so 2019 or 2018, and then it would have been when Jalen Weekly was playing for Owasso, so 2014, and then they beat my brother's team a couple years before that, 2012.
Yeah. And
so
I don't
last
remember.
2, real quick, Ted, so the last 2, what's crazy about that, 2018, 2014. So you're right, Jared. Good historian. Corunna.
You don't forget those losses, man. You don't forget them.
Because in those years, that was Owasso's only win in those seasons.
Yeah.
They went 1-8 in those seasons, but they beat Corunna. It's crazy.
I think the 18 game, they just came over and just totally manhandled them physically. They must have had 7 or 8 unsportsmanlike conduct penalties with late hits, but they ended up picking up the win.
Well, they had years of beating to get payback on.
Right.
But one thing I will say, it's a bit of a bummer. You almost wish that game was at Owasso. I mean, we're all Corunna guys. Sweet new field they got, but I hate to say it, man. That's a game made for Woolman.
Yeah, historic Wilman Field for sure. Well, Corunna coming into the game, putting up 49 points last week against Brandon. They improved to 3-0, 49-21. Quarterback Caden Cowdery settling in, 4 touchdown passes, 130 yards rushing. Bryce Eddington apparently is back healthy, 2 touchdown runs. Lucas Curran, a 90-yard kickoff return, and Isaac Jacobs. There's a family connection there on the Prep Spotlight.
Oh, yeah.
Had a couple of touchdowns for the Cavaliers in that one as well. So it's going to be a great matchup, a Castle game of the week for sure. We got the 3-man booth going to work that game on Friday night. So I'm looking forward to going over there and seeing what's up.
I'll be tuned in on NFHS. That's for sure. That's
Good.
prime. That's a prime. I'm going to be dual screening it. Nebraska, Illinois, Owasso, Corunna. That's a great Friday night to me.
That's
Sounds
a great
good.
Friday night right there.
Patch the Castle into the broadcast so you can listen in on that as well.
100%.
All right.
Ted, by the way,
Yeah.
I know you got a few more scores to rattle through.
Yeah.
Three-man booth.
Right.
You 40 years you were the play-by-play guy. How do you like being the third mic? Is it kind of cool? And Casey, first of all, Casey does a great job play-by-play, but how is it kind of stepping back?
You know what? I like it.
Third mic.
I like third mic, and I did last week. I did with Casey just the color commentary. Bart had a commitment, or it was 2 weeks ago rather.
Right.
I kind of like it. There's definitely not the pressure. I'll put it that way. I'm not going to shortchange the job because you got to read the commercials, so you got to be able to read coherently.
That's the hardest part. Is probably reading all the commercials.
Right, but the color commentary part kind of comes natural to me. Sometimes I get maybe a little bit too animated in my play-by-play mode, but
right.
I actually like it. It's fun, and really, it's nice being a third mic because I try not to step on Bart. I just try to pick my spots where I can just put a little tidbit in there, get in, get out. And it's fun. It's fun, and still one of the best seats in the house too. I love that.
Oh yeah.
A couple quick other scores. Ovid Elsie over Lakeville, no problem, 52-0. Who should I talk about first here, Jared?
Trey Stokar.
Tokar, 9 of 9 passing, 2 touchdowns and a touchdown run. Owen Long, an 80-yard interception return for 6. A couple other scores. Morris over Byron, 54-6, an 8-man. This guy's got a nice stat line here. Wyatt Valentine, he's off to a great start defensively. A man after my heart. He's already got, I think, 4 or 5 interceptions on the year. He had a 64-yard interception return for a TD. He had a fumble, scoop, and score, and had a touchdown run on offense. So that's not a bad night's work there.
All around.
And one other score, didn't really see much about it in the coverage, but Duran come roaring into the game. Montrose sent him packing 20-14. So a little wake-up call for the Railroaders in that one.
Yeah.
All right, guys, that's it. The Prep Spotlight presented by Jacobs Insurance Agency, local, independent, and trusted. We'll be back, talk a little college and pro football, and may even talk a little Tigers on 3 Point Podcast tonight. We'll be right back.
All right. The Lions. It's the NFL. You don't make too much out of any singular game. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers are a playoff winning team, and they won a playoff game last year. They're good. It's tough to beat them. But to me, something seems off about this season. I'm not sure what. And I think they're going to get the rhythm going. I think it's a little bit – I heard Dan Campbell on 97.1 earlier today basically saying how Jared Goff's just forcing a lot of throws right now.
Yeah.
And a couple interceptions are just backbreaking. So to me, the game really came down to 2 people in particular. Jared Goff, I just don't think he's vibing right now. His rhythm is off. I think he's trying too hard to get Jameson Williams maybe overly involved. He's trying to do too much, like Dan Campbell said, on some of these deeper throws, trying to force it, trying to extend plays a little bit too long. And I think he's also missing Josh Reynolds. We kind of, wish Josh Reynolds good luck after, a couple bad drops in the playoff game last year against the 49ers. But we know it. We watched every game last year. He was the security blanket for Goff on those third and mediums, on those third and longs. It seems like Reynolds is always getting open at critical downs throughout the game. And their rapport went back to the Rams. So clearly they had this rapport they built up over years and years of playing on the same team together and practicing in the offseason and all that sort of stuff. So I think part of that is just not having that wide receiver number 3 that we could easily slot in and go to in those critical moments. Jameson Williams, that's not his bag. We know that's Amon Ra's bag, those type of intermediate, going across the field routes. Mm-hmm. But I just think they're missing that guy right now. And Laporta's been dinged up. Maybe he'll finally get things going next week. But the game really came down to this, in my opinion. It was Dan Campbell at halftime, a blunder beyond blunders. We love Dan Campbell. And here's the thing about the NFL. and clock management. It happens to all these coaches.
Right.
People think it's like a Dan Campbell issue. It happens to everybody. The only guy maybe I've never seen it get burned by it is like a Sean McVay. It happens to everybody. But what the hell was that? One, I almost point to the players that are running onto the field in the field goal unit. Like, are they that dumb as well, where just if a coach yells go, you just run blindly onto the field?
Right.
There's 2 seconds left before half. Jared Goff seems to be the only one knowing what's going on in the situation. He's trying to get the ball spiked. They rush the field goal unit out. You get a penalty, clock runs out, and all of a sudden, now that all the momentum you would have got from that field goal and having a great drive before the end of the half is evaporated. And I just think it really set the tone for the second half.
That was right in my notes, and I'll tell you, I don't know this for a fact, but you're right. I mean, it was a complete botch job, and Campbell took all the heat for it. But what about the special teams coach?
Right.
I mean, he's sending the guys out there to kick the field goal, isn't he?
Right.
Yeah, I'd be curious what I guess if you want to call it the chain of command is. Like, did Campbell literally yell field goal, field goal?
Right.
Was Campbell just falling on the grenade? Was he being a leader, a head coach, and just saying it was my fault?
That's my feeling.
Or, did the players just run out on their own? We haven't really heard a full-on explanation like that. We just know it was a complete botch job by everyone involved. Like you said, Jared, Goff was apparently the only one that really knew what the situation was. They, like that kind of did set the tone for the second half. I think it's just overall, if you watch all around the league, Jared, you said all you've been doing is watching the Tigers and watching football. If you've watched any other games, quarterback play all around is just not very good right now. Like, even Mahomes is a little iffy. Yeah. Jalen Hurts last night on Monday Night Football he looked off the whole time. You got quarterbacks coming off of injuries. No one basically played in the preseason. Bryce Young already got benched by the Panthers this year. That's a whole other story. But I think we're seeing the Lions basically didn't play any starters in the preseason. Right. And, now this is kind of like the first, second, third preseason game. So it is almost like, even though they basically brought back the same offense, you still got to shake off the rust. You practice all offseason, but you still got to get game reps. And that is the little bit of value that you get in preseason. You start hitting some other people, you're playing at full speed. So Goff, he just seems off. We don't need to get into it, anything. I'm Goff. I'm not wearing his jersey, but I've come around. I'm fine with the extension. I would take him over probably half of the quarterbacks in the NFL. The recipe for the Lions winning is not what they did on Sunday. No. And that is not me being a Goff hater. If Jared Goff is throwing the ball 55 times and you're only rushing it basically 25, that's not what you want from the Lions. I don't care what the situation is. Sometimes you get into a shootout and you have to do that. But when you're running the ball for basically 5 yards a run and the Buccaneers defensive line is banged up, Vita Vea wasn't even in there, and you've got Montgomery and Gibbs, I don't know what was going on. Like, what were they trying to do? And like you said, week one, they clearly were trying to get Jamison Williams involved, and St. Brown didn't have much of a game. And then now all of a sudden, week two, it was almost like they were trying too much to get St. Brown involved. Because then we're like, where's Laporta? We get down to the red zone and like, where's Laporta? It was a really weird game.
Well,
and it's just, something seemed off.
Yeah. It was just a bad game all the way. The whole team, everybody, coaching, except players,
Hutch. Except our guy Hutch. Your guy Hutch.
Yeah, Hutch had a hell of a game. There's no question about that. But even Ben Johnson.
Yeah.
God, Ben Johnson, the offensive guru, right? Some of the calls, you guys had to be shaking your head, and even down the stretch. And I'll jump right on the bandwagon about Goff. He had a terrible game. If he doesn't step back, take this 3-step drop and fire it, when he has to look at that secondary receiver, he has problems. But Ben Johnson didn't do him any favors. And then at the end of the game, what on earth? They had to have a touchdown, and they threw 2 incomplete passes that even if the guys caught them, the game's over.
Right.
What the hell was up with that?
Right. Yeah, they get the ball back at the end of the game with like 50 seconds left and a timeout because the Buccaneers gave them a break and threw an incomplete pass. And it felt like, they're going to win this. And the first play they do is a little 8-yard route to St. Brown in the middle of the field, and they have to burn their timeout. And it was like, what did we just accomplish? What just happened?
Those are the games we won last year. And that's why I just got I don't know. I don't want to say it. I'm not saying it, but I just got a weird vibe. we won those type of games last year. Think about the Chiefs game week 1. I remember a Bears game later on in the year where we kind of came from nowhere and ended up winning, scored like 2 touchdowns in the last minute. The game comes down to scoring in the NFL, especially. It comes down to scoring touchdowns in the red zone. I mean, 1 for 7.
Yeah.
Right.
You can't do that in the NFL. You cannot do that in the NFL and expect to win. And I'm with you about Ben Johnson. I don't know what's going on with this dude. I'm not smart enough to pick apart the play calling. It's something like you said. You just look at the stat line. Like, why is Goff throwing that many goddamn passes? I've said this quote before on this podcast, and it's maybe embarrassing how much it's stuck with me. But when Harbaugh was talking about J.J. McCarthy going into the NFL and while he was going to be a good NFL quarterback, he talked about how he was willing to run the same thing and do the same thing over and over with numbing repetition. And that's a skill for offensive play callers, especially. You see it. Like, think about our guy we just interviewed, Coach Walter. When Florian is toting the rock for 7 yards of carry, you feed him 35 times. You feed him the ball 35 times. Some coordinators may get a little cute and say, oh, wow, they're expecting Florian to rush for the 35th time. Let's go play action pass. And that's when the interceptions happen.
Right.
To me, it just seems like they got to get back to the basics. I'm not sure. Montgomery didn't have a great game, 11 carries for 35 yards. So it's almost like I can't just say, oh, you got to pound the rock. I don't have the answers. But Goff throwing the ball that many times is never the answer. Like you said, that's never the answer. But I will say, I'll eat crow, man. Hutchinson, he's the man. I mean, what else can you say? It's a bummer because it's like we didn't even lead this podcast talking about that. If the Lions get the win, that's who we talk about.
Right.
And that to me is the biggest bummer of this entire game is Hutchinson, he'll never have another game like that in his lifetime. That was a once-in-a-lifetime game, and we couldn't win it. That's a hero performance, and we still couldn't win it around him. And look at maybe we're not ready to look ahead to next week, but my God, Cardinals in week 3, they look damn good right now. Facing the Cardinals in week 3 versus, week 15, 16 when Kyler Murray is banged up, 2 totally different teams. Right. I think they're in trouble going to the desert next week. I think Kyler Murray is going to give our defense fits, and I don't know. I just got a bad feeling. Talk me out of it. Tell me why we're going to win this game and get back on the right track because I just don't see it right now.
I mean, the evidence, I guess, would be that Ben Johnson and Jared Goff, and they'll figure some stuff out. The offensive line is still good. So, I mean, we're hoping that last week was just kind of that weird game where they were maybe messing around on offense a little bit, and they realized, okay, we got to be a little more balanced on offense. Like, yes, Jared Goff had a good season. He got that big contract extension. St. Brown's a stud. Jamison Williams does look really good, but we're still the Detroit Lions. We still need to run the ball. That's the hope. But yeah, Kyler Murray looked really, really good. I said that about quarterbacks not playing well. Kyler Murray's been one that has looked really good. So, and it's out west. So that weird 4:30 start time or whatever, It's always weird for the Lions to play at 4:00. It's just always a strange start time for the Lions. Right. But, and then after that is the Seahawks, who former Michigan defensive coordinator, Mike McDonald, has them 2-0 and playing like maybe the best team in the NFC. So the Lions are staring at a 1-3 start if they don't figure this thing out quick, because they need to.
Yeah, I think they're going to figure it out. And I think they're going to go on the road in Arizona and win that game. Coming off the loss, they know they have the adjustments to make. And think about it too. I mean, they were a bad coaching call at halftime from probably winning that game, and we'd be having a whole other conversation. Even though they didn't play great, a W would have been nice. But I think they're going to go out there. They're going to make a few adjustments. I think Kyler Murray is going to be running for his life, and I think the Lions are going to take care of him and bottle him up. That's just my gut feel. While we're still on pro football, a couple other stories. The Tua concussion situation. I mean, everybody's talking about it. It's his decision, obviously, but it's not a good situation. I mean, he has had more concussion issues than any quarterback that young age should ever have. And I'm sure he's got to be looking at the future and what has gone on with other pro football players and the whole CTE thing. We don't have to get deep into that, but you look back on your life, how many millions of dollars is worth dying at 50,
Well, here's I guess where I think of a classic movie. Ted, I know you love this movie. I don't even know if you do, but I already know you love it. The Wrestler. You ever seen it?
Oh yeah.
So think about how everybody in that movie, basically what happens is the very last scene, he's having heart issues because he wrestles in the ring. He basically decides, I'm going to die in the ring because this is what I love. It's like, I'm not saying Tua is going to die on the no, I don't want that to happen. I'm not saying that. But it's his decision, man. And shoot, it's the freaking NFL. you're playing in front of millions every Sunday. I wouldn't be able to turn it down. If I was in his shoes, I would not be able to stop playing. Maybe I would. I really don't think I would. It's his decision. And that's what I think is so funny is like people are so sharply saying he can't play anymore. He can't. It's like genuinely, who cares? If he wants to keep playing, it's his risk. It's his body. It's his life. If his family's okay with it, like, so be it. It probably will happen again. That's football. And you just live with the results. If it means some issues down the road, I mean, hell, you had quite the life, those first 30 years of your life playing football and doing what you love. That's the way I look at it. I'm not even sure if that's even a thought, but it's his decision, and it sounds like he's going to keep playing. So you just got to support him in that sense.
I mean, it's one of those things. I think something that people don't, I mean, you hear a lot of former professional athletes talk about it, but maybe us normal people don't think about it. I mean, Ted, you're mid 60s and you're trying to retire right now.
Mm-hmm.
Imagine someone telling you at 30 years old, you had to retire. Something, you've worked at for football, someone like Tua put so much work in to be top of the game, to be at a top level national champion quarterback in college football, and then get a huge contract in the NFL. This is all you've done. And then I don't, he's not even 30 yet, not even 30. And people are telling you got to retire. There's probably the thought of like, yes, the health thing, but what the hell am I going to do with my life? I'm not even 30 yet. This is all I know is football, so that's got to be a thought. And then if you think about, I mentioned former athletes or former, especially football players, when they're 60, when they're 65, whatever. And people ask them when they can't walk and they can't move or, whatever. And they say, would you go do it again? They're always like, yeah. Basically what you're saying, Jared, are you kidding me? Being a professional football player and living that life, there's nothing like it. So most of these former pro athletes that can, they got the injuries and stuff from playing their whole life. They're like, I would do it over again in a heartbeat. So, of course we don't want anything more serious to happen to him, but you got to think if the doctors clear him and a neurologist says you're clear. I mean, the only risk is what the risk of any other football player has. You got to think that's going to be a very tough decision for him.
It will be tough. And maybe this is the move that if he does come back to play, he wears one of those foam outer liners on the
guardian caps.
Yeah, whatever they're called.
Yeah, I would agree with that. That seems like a no-brainer.
Right.
Almost. It's like the NFL doesn't want this to keep happening.
No.
And I don't know what they probably can't say you have to retire. Maybe they could. I don't think they won't. But I would be like, if Roger Goodell's like, you got to wear that helmet, like, and I'm Tua, I'm like, yeah, I'm going to wear it.
If I'm going to play.
I'm with you.
Right. One final thing, the Monday night game, I don't know if you guys watched it, but Kirk Cousins, man, he came through for Atlanta down the stretch. I don't know what kind of defense Philadelphia was playing, but Cousins looked really good.
I watched I didn't watch that game live, but I saw the highlights. The Manning cast posted like the full drive. It was like a minute clip. I'm like, what the hell is going on? I don't know what the hell happened, but that game, and we're talking about the Lions, where it's like that halftime, that 3-point field goal. That's what it boiled down to. Yeah. That Eagles game, and this isn't rocket science. Saquon Barkley, you got to catch that ball, man. It's the NFL. He's kicking himself. He is.
Yeah.
My God, that's a backbreaker. You got to make that play, and he makes that play 9 times out of 10. Just so happens in the biggest moment of so far this season, he just didn't make the play.
Yeah, I mean, Cousins coming off that Achilles injury he had last year hasn't looked like necessarily as healthy. Maybe he's still kind of coming back, shaking the rust off from that injury. But if there's one thing, Kirk Cousins, even though he catches criticism because he doesn't have postseason success or whatever, he's always good in that 2-minute drill. Mm-hmm. And it was kind of like once he got that ball back in the 2-minute drill, that's one area that he's always been good. And it was interesting that clip you're talking about on the Manning cast, Jared, I watched that too. And at that time, Peyton and Eli, they had Matt Ryan on during that drive, and they were talking about it. They said that sometimes the 2-minute drill, I think it was Matt Ryan brought it up. He said the 2-minute drill is where quarterbacks operate the best because you don't have to think, especially if you're still trying to learn a new offense. Like Kirk Cousins, he's learning a new offense in Atlanta. When you go to that 2-minute drill, it's basic plays. It's the plays that you've been running all off season. It's quick throws. It's just get up to the line, snap it, throw. And a dude like Cousins, that's where he thrives. That's why Stafford was always so good. The Lions would go down 17 and start going to that hurry up. And it'd be like, why don't we just do this all the time? Stafford just slinging it around. It's always good. So hey, a win's a win. I have some friends at work that are Falcons fans, and they were kind of like, yeah, but I was like, yeah,
take it.
But my Lions just lost, and they outgained the Buccaneers by 200 yards. So
it could be worse than us Lions fan. I mean, it seems like the other big storyline to start the year. I mean, injuries. Yeah. I mean, it happens every football season, but man, it seems like it's really hitting a lot of the key teams hard. I mean, the Rams, after they just got killed last week. My God, they went from looking like, wow, this seems to be really good, mid-third quarter of that Lions game to, wow, they're 0-2 all of a sudden with their two key wide receivers hurt for extended periods of time. I mean, the 49ers are banged up. Deebo Samuel out. Christian McCaffrey out. There's been a lot of injuries across the league. Really, the only teams that have remained healthy is the Lions, in our division.
So far.
So, yeah. Knock on wood.
Yeah.
Go Lions. Well, let's take a real short pause and come back, talk a little college football, and like I said, maybe some Tiger baseball as well. We'll be right back. All right, guys. Underwhelming for sure, but the Michigan Wolverines will take the W, 28-18. One thing we learned, Davis Warren's not the guy. We'll find out if Alex Orji is the guy, as he's named new starter. I guess the one comment I got, it's okay to make the change. I'm all for it, but why announce it?
Yeah, it made no sense.
Right.
It made no sense.
No,
that was the dead giveaway that it ain't gonna work. That made no sense. What are we doing?
Jim Harbaugh would not have announced it.
No way.
It's God. Like the move in itself. Like, believe me, we've already had our opinions on both these quarterbacks.
Yeah.
To me, whatever is happening in practice, clearly Orji isn't lighting it up and looking better than Davis Warren. So I'll trust the coach's opinion. But that was just a boneheaded move. Any way you look at it, I'm not sure that it's the prep's going to change a ton for USC, but my God, that's just sport. That's coaching.
Coaching 101.
Why would you just give away that info on Monday? That to me tells me that Sharon Moore is hearing the press clippings, is hearing the comments, didn't want to deal with a few more days of questions about it, and instead just did it, and it's going to cost them. I really think that we're sitting. This is a visual podcast or it's an audio podcast, but we're sitting, about halfway down the cliff after that Texas game. We are at the top. Now we're about halfway after the Texas loss. I hope I'm wrong, but I really think this USC game could be a real jump off the cliff to a whole new low. I hope I'm wrong, but that's my vibe. What do you guys think?
I mean, kind of the same. You have to wonder if they would have started Davis Warren again. In my opinion, it would have been a bad move by the coaching staff, because to me, it would have been sending a message to the players that what he's been doing these last 3 weeks, that's the best we got, and it would have been like, what are we doing? The dude has 6 interceptions and only 2 touchdowns. And we've played 2, kind of cupcake teams, Yeah, Texas is national title contender, but, to me, you have to make the move to Orji just to send a message that like, hey, we're still trying to win, but the locker room could fall apart if they go out there and get blown out by USC. It could be like, man, what are we doing? I'm just curious to see what kind of offense they do. Are they really going to let Orji throw? Are they really going to go full on second half of the Penn State game last year and just run every play? Are you like, is it just going to be little rollout passes? Like at some point, Orji's going to have to stretch the field and keep the defense honest, but he hasn't shown that he can do that. Yeah. Are we going to see Mullings and Donovan Edwards in the backfield with him at the same time, to kind of try and do some of that stuff? Like
we should.
I want to see what they're going to do with this quarterback.
Yeah, I think they would love to just jam it down their throats. The problem that I'm seeing early going here, this offensive line is not living up to what last year's did. I mean, they lost some key studs on that offensive line. That makes a big difference too. Yeah. But I would like to see Orji and the 2 running backs in there at the same time. Yeah. Why not?
Yeah, it is kind of wild. That's what we were talking about, like Edwards as a receiver. How they use him is so vanilla, man. It's concerning. Mm-hmm. Here's how I see the game going. Is I think, one, you had to go with Orji. I just think I almost think Michigan wants to be on the road at this point. This fan base is ready to turn on the squad as soon as one interception happens. If Davis Warren was trotted out there, they probably would have booed him right as they ran off the opening snap. And if he threw one pick, the crowd might have cleared out before halftime. So I think you had to make that move almost for that sense. But how I see the game going is I think they'll have a great script with Orji, a couple planned, rollout throws on that first drive. They'll look great. Matt will be loving it. I'll be loving it. Ted, you'll be loving it too.
Yep.
And then next thing you know, you look up and the score at the end of the game is 30 to 14. Michigan's offense doesn't do much for the next 3 quarters. I just think USC is the real deal. I really do. I watched every second of that LSU game. Last week they blanked Utah State 48-0. Tell me the last time a USC defense has blanked anybody. Even Michigan's defense hasn't been able to do that this year. And this guy, I don't know if you guys have watched much of that LSU USC game, but this guy blew me away. Zachariah Branch has a green mouth guard. You can't miss him. Literally looks like he's going to be a big time difference maker on Sundays next year. The guy is impressive, speed demon. So I think he's going to have a big game. I think Miller Moss is the best quarterback on the field, which you usually take that in a game like this. I hope I'm wrong, but I think USC is kind of going to be their welcome to the Big Ten moment. Is going to be at the big house, striping it out. Should be an awesome crowd, cool environment, really fun matchup. But I just think it's USC's to lose.
Yeah. Well, it's a 3:30 kickoff. The one saving grace that I see gives me a little bit of hope. Vegas usually is pretty close, and it's only 6.5.
5.5, yeah,
5.5 now,
or 6, 5.5, 6.5,
okay.
Somewhere around there.
So that gives me a little hope right there.
Yeah, I think they're hoping that the whole orgy project is going to work. I just want to see first play of the game, throw deep, throw deep. First play of the game, they're going to be expecting a little read option and orgy running for 5 yards. Just send, I don't care what receiver, just say go. And orgy clearly can throw the ball. Just chuck it. I don't even care. Throw it as far as you can. Make USC go, oh, you're actually going to let him throw.
This season could be, because we've seen this before when we have bad quarterbacks where they rotate 3 or 4 of them. Next thing you know, in 2 weeks, Davis Warren will be the starter again.
Right.
This season could have a lot of comedic elements to it, man. If it unfolds like I think it will. Again, I hope I'm wrong, but I think we could be looking back in a week on this podcast going, what the hell did we just watch? Well,
yeah,
it somehow got worse. Can they get worse? Do you think that this is the right move, or do you say like you have no choice? Do you predict the offense will be better?
I think it's going to be better just alone if Orgy doesn't throw the ball away like Davis Warren was.
Right.
Because think about last week, Arkansas State, they were about to blow the doors off and probably win that game by 24, 30 points. But Warren threw 3 interceptions, and that basically kept Arkansas State in the game.
Yeah.
I mean, 2 of the interceptions, they were like driving down and probably about to score a touchdown. He turns it over, keeps Arkansas State in the game. So, that score would have looked a lot different if you just simply don't turn the ball over. So if Orgy just at least does that, then yeah, hopefully Michigan's defense can clean it up a little bit.
What did JJ have last year? Like 1 pick, something like that?
Well, he had 3 in the Bowling Green game, but I think outside of that, maybe 1 pick.
Right.
You would know better than I would, Matt.
Yeah, 1. The rest he had 4 total, but in that one game he threw 3 that made everyone go crazy. And then he threw 1 the rest of the season. So.
Right.
Well, one thing I just want to throw out there real quick, and something to keep an eye on. This is somebody way smarter than I was, but I thought he broke it down really well. Joel Klatt, our Michigan man up in the booth with Gus Johnson, maybe a little too Michigan-based sometimes for some people, but
not to me.
He pointed out, like, just to me, like on paper, like we're talking about Wink Martindale, Jesse Minter. Like, to me, it just seems like they're not the same defense, despite returning a lot of those same key players outside of maybe Mike Sanders still and a couple other guys, McGregor. So basically, he broke it down where in the past under Minter and McDonald, we blitzed like hardly ever. I think it was like we were 50th or 60th ranked in blitzing. This year, it's all the way up to 4th. And that's what Wink Martindale is known for. He's known for the exotic blitzes. But sometimes what was magical about those Michigan defenses of the past is how they never had missed assignments. Right. If you beat them, you'd beat them by marching it down the field, 10, 12 plays at a time. They weren't going to shoot themselves in the foot. And I just think that was so impressive for a college defense. We were seeing it. Mike McDonald's a hell of an NFL coach. He was coaching kids on the Michigan sideline on defense for a couple years ago. So I just think that's something to keep an eye on. I think USC might bust a couple big plays because of how Wink Martindale coaches. I don't like the blitzing scheme.
No, I mean, Dr. Blitz, Don Brown, that's what ended up coming back to bite him. We love the blitzes, Dr. Blitz, but clearly he got exposed. Michigan's supposed to have, if not the best defensive line, one of the best defensive lines in the country this season. If that's the case, why are you blitzing so much? Just let the defensive line do what they got to do. And then, yes, every once in a while, sprinkle in a blitz to catch them off guard. But if you're just blitzing 4th in the country, I mean, I don't care how good your defensive backs are. You're leaving them out on an island.
And isn't that concerning? They're blitzing that much when 2 of the 3 opponents have been Fresno State and Arkansas State. NFL defensive coordinating is different than college. In college, you want these quarterbacks to sit back and have to pick apart eight-man defensive back coverages where they're dropping back. In the NFL, you need to send out these exotic blitzes because you're blitzing Patrick Mahomes, who will pick you apart if you don't come up with creative stuff. I really worry about the defense more so than even the offense. I think at this point, they're not gelling right, in my opinion.
Yeah, they got their hands full, that's for sure. And we're going to see how they stack up in that game and what the rest of the season has in store for us. I do want to move on to Michigan State. Our good friend Jim Woodworth, when he sent his check
Beast mode, Jim Woodworth.
Beast mode is right. Man, he's looking good, isn't he?
Oh man.
But he's grinding, man. That is impressive.
Yeah,
it's impressive.
When he sent his little stipend over to us, he just wrote 2 words: "Go State." So I think he likes Michigan State. So let's talk a little Michigan State.
Yeah.
It's a great game.
Yeah, I mean, kind of quietly now. 3-0. They're starting to figure out some things. 40-0 over Prairie View A&M. I mean, I don't know if that tells us a lot, but their quarterback Aiden Childs again getting some more confidence where he ran for a TD, passed for another. Brantley had Charles Brantley. I guess it's officially listed as 100 yards, but really 105-yard interception return. He was midway in the end zone. Big win, and I mean they got a chance on the road against a good Boston College team to really make a statement and get them, solidified heading into the meat and potatoes of the Big Ten schedule.
It's going to be awesome. I mean, Boston College is legit. They had Missouri semi on the ropes last week. I mean, I think they were up 14-3 before Missouri came back. They only lost by 6 points to the number 6 team in the country on the road. They're 2-1. Bill O'Brien is the head coach, which is just a nice little fun fact. You don't really realize until all of a sudden he's on your screen like, wow, that's where he's at now. It seems like he's doing a hell of a job. But for those who don't know, this is Boston College's quote unquote the red bandana game, as they call it. If you've never seen the piece by Tom Rinaldi from probably 10 years ago, it's an all-time piece on Wells Cruther and the 9/11 hero that he was. So they wear these special white uniforms with bandana, pattern on it. So it's going to be one hell of a crowd. It's a night game. They wear white at home. The only time of year they do this, Michigan State's wearing their green. Should be an awesome crowd, awesome game. I can't wait to watch that one. It's probably my number 1 game I'm looking forward to watching this weekend.
It should be a good one. And I think we talked about it last week. And yes, Michigan State, like we've said, they've done everything they're supposed to do. They won their first Big Ten game on the road at Maryland last week, or 2 weeks ago now. They're 3-0. But this is the stretch. This 3-game stretch is where we're probably going to find out what this Michigan State team really is: at Boston College, Ohio State, then at Oregon. So before their bye week. So those 3 games, if they can figure out a way to go 1-2 in those games, whether it's beat Boston College, whatever, if they can go 1-2 in these and sit at 4-2 going into their bye week, I think most Michigan State fans would take that, given, first year of the new head coach and everything they had going on. So, but if they go into these 3 games and just get absolutely run off the field in all 3 of these games, maybe a different vibe.
Well, we did talk about it a little bit. Jonathan Smith, I mean, he seems like he is the right kind of coach to guide the Spartans. He's calming influence when you see him in the interviews after the games or at halftime. No nonsense, but it kind of reminds me a little bit of D'Antonio. I don't want to throw that on him right now.
He's like a nice D'Antonio. If you were a State fan, what you were hoping he would turn into is, I mean, he plays similar style. The teams have a similar style. He's just almost like a he'll kill you like with a smile on his face. Almost like Jonathan Smith seems like. He's a program builder. I've been impressed. I really have been. He really seems to have gotten this team to a different level than they were last year, with obviously a new influx of talent. But I was really worried after week 1 against FAU, but they really seemed to iron out some of those issues. And I think they got to be feeling good as a 6.5-point underdog to Boston College. I like Michigan State in that game.
Well, go Sparty, that's for sure. All right, before we wrap up this podcast, fellers, Jared, you're in the meat and potatoes of the Tigers. We're recording this on Tuesday night. They're coming off a huge Monday night win. That was so exciting to watch that. And, Benetti and Dirks in the booth sound really good in that game. And right now it's 1-1. I mean, they're in a legitimate pennant chase. They're 1.5 games back of the Twins with 11 to go, counting tonight. I mean, it's hard to believe, man. We're almost to the later part of September, and we're talking Tiger baseball.
I mean, since August 11th, they have the best record in the major leagues. I mean, you can't say anything else about that. And, that basically is around the time that they said Javi Baez, let's call it a season. And so we don't want to bag on Javi Baez too much, but I don't think that's just a coincidence. I mean, it wasn't all him, but when you take him out of the lineup and you at least get some good juju going, get some young bats in there, clearly the team has turned it around. Pitching's better. They're hitting the ball, they're scoring. I mean, they're playing, they're the best team. They're the hottest team in the major leagues right now. I don't know if you want to call them the best. They're the hottest team in the major leagues. And sometimes that's what you need. If you can make it to the postseason, it's about who's the hottest team going in. And right now that's the Tigers. So hopefully they might be able to get it done.
I don't know the sport well enough to explain what they're doing, but there just seems to be some magic on this squad. Don't know how to explain it. Don't even try to. It's just they're getting it done in a new way every game. It's like last night's game you're talking about, Ted. It's like, they go down 4-0 to a Bobby Witt Jr. grand slam, and it's like they're not dead. They're never dead. No. And it honestly reminds me, hopefully it's a different result, but it reminds me a lot of the Red Wings team from this past season, where down the stretch it was like every game was wild. Every game, had a storybook ending, whether they won or lost. And it just seemed like it was destiny that they were going to make the playoffs. They somehow didn't. It came down to Washington Capitals won that final game, and that could happen to the Tigers. But what a run it's been to even get them themselves in this position. Right. Appreciate it and love it. It feels like playoff baseball every game you're watching right now.
Absolutely. I mean, it is. I mean, really, it is.
Yeah.
They can't afford losing many games. So.
No.
Unfortunately, the Twins have the tiebreaker if it comes down to that. So I hope it doesn't. But man, it's so fun to watch Tiger baseball when it means something. It's so enjoyable.
It is, and it does help that they finished with a 3-game series against the White Sox.
Yeah.
So that's if it comes to maybe it's still only a one game lead heading into that last weekend. Sweep the White Sox and but you got to get to that position first. But
well, I think I told you guys I'm planning on going down the 26th. I've changed my tune a little bit. I think I'm going down. We're going to spend the night at Greektown, the hotel there, and I'm going to go that Wednesday night before. So I'm going to go to the night game on the 25th and then go to the afternoon game on the 26th. Hopefully they're still in it. That'd be awesome.
Cool. Yeah, that's what you need.
Go Tigers.
And then we know you'll be coming back up for a playoff game. We know you will.
Oh, maybe.
Hopefully
they'll honor my credentials for playoffs.
Yeah.
They do for regular season. All right, guys, we got anything else we need to get on the table, or we're going to wrap this thing up?
I think so.
All right. It's been a fun podcast. Again, we want to thank the good folks at Memorial Healthcare. Their wellness center is top notch, and the orthopedic walk-in clinic is now open Monday through Fridays, 8 to noon. No appointment needed. Headed up by PAs Tara Rakowski and Michael Smith. Clinic is designed for those unexpected moments when injuries strike. Also want to thank our other partners, ALS of Michigan, AZee Branding Solutions, Jacobs Insurance Agency, Kori Shook & Associates Real Estate Services, Nelson House Funeral Homes, Rivals Taphouse and Grille, Success Group Mortgage and Servicing. Keep pumping that iron, Jimmy. Shiawassee County Fair. Also get out there for that trunk and treat coming up in mid-October. I want to thank Chesaning head football coach Matt Walter. He's, you know what? He's becoming one of my favorites to talk to, man. I love the way he operates, and I think he's got that Chesaning program headed in the right direction for a long time, as long as he stays there, right?
That's what I said. I mean, before we started recording, I joked about that long contract extension. Hopefully Chesaning is locking him in.
Absolutely. Also want to do a little promo, the Z92.5 game of the week, our annual Owasso at Corunna game. Should be a good one. A couple 3-0 teams going at it. A lot on the line, and I think Nicanese Stadium over there is going to be jam-packed with fans. If you can't make it, or even if you can make it, tune into the Castle, lock it in on your smartphone, z925.com. That'll do it. Peace and love, everybody. Be kind. Register to vote. Today was Register to Vote Day in the country. Make sure you get your vote out there, and thanks for listening, everybody. We'll talk to you next time.